Hi guys, welcome to another Good Chat. Very special guest today. Warrnambool's known for having it's more than its fair share of champion sports people, and today we have one who is world class. Tayla Relph is with us, who competes in the World Championship motorbike racing. And Tayla, welcome back to Fitzmania.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's changed a lot over the last few years, so yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah, Tayla, of course, is a former journalist here, and has kicked on some really big things. Last 2 years has been on the world circuit, in top 10 finishes in both years. Fantastic start to your career.
Yeah, it's been incredible. You know, I never once imagined that I could actually race in a world championship. I always grew up watching MotoGP and World Superbikes on the TV, and you know, just because it was always predominantly men racing in the championship, it was always something that I strived for. But I knew that there was a factor that was stopping that from being a possibility. So when I did retire from the sport in 2019 due to health reasons, obviously, I thought for me that was my time done. That was the world championship dreams. They all came crashing down. And yeah, I never thought it was something that would be possible to do. And yeah, I can't believe that 2024 was my first year out of retirement in motorsport, and my very first race back was in the world championships. So yeah, life has been an absolute roller coaster over the last 2 years. And the fact that I'm about to start for my third year in the world championship it's such a surreal feeling, especially considering I thought I would never be here alone, let alone actually racing in my third season this year.
And when people see people playing elite sport, or you just think, oh yeah, they're living the dream. But there's it's an interesting life, isn't it? Because you are living that dream that everyone wants to do. But there's so much to get to that level. There's so much work constantly happening, not just in the off season, but during the season as well. And how does that? Is the glory of it all, worth all that hard work?
It's definitely worth all the hard yards, all the sacrifices, blood, sweat, tears, everything in between. But yeah, look, there is so much that I never understood what it actually took to race in a world championship. And I definitely have so much more respect for every other Australian who has gone over trying to compete in the world championship or just internationally altogether, because there's just so many, there's so many things that actually come up that you just don't even think about, Not just do I have to learn how to race overseas in Europe. I don't have to just learn how to race in a world championship. Me and Ted, we've had to learn how to live in Europe, how to try and speak a different language. Even something as simple as going to the supermarket and trying to get some fruit from the supermarket. The first time we were in Italy trying to buy some fruit, we got yelled at by the register because we forgot to pre-scan our fruit and get the little price tag, something that's usually done in Australia when you're actually at the register. And we had no idea that was, that's how they live over there. And yeah, we had to basically set up a whole entire life over there. We had to buy a van. We had to try and find a house. We had to try and find out just how to live. So 2024 was very much just spent that way. We didn't really get to actually focus on the racing side of things, because the whole season was actually just spent us learning how to live, how to speak the language, how to understand the road signs, the speed limits, all that kind of thing. 2025 was a little bit different for us because, then by that stage we did know how to live over there. We set up a home base. Ted finished building the van that was eventually the van that we live in when we're over there. And yeah, we actually got to focus on the racing side of things. And I think that really showed in the results. Yes, in 2025, on paper, it doesn't look like my results were as good as what they were in 2024, but the championship really jumped up a level the following year. A lot of the girls put in so much more effort, a lot more training, a lot more testing, and the championship as a whole was so much faster in 2025. And for me to have also made that jump with the next group was a real big bonus for me. So yeah, to finish the final year, finish the final race only 5 seconds away from a win, 1 second away from a podium, that's really good for me. And yeah, we had a really difficult time in the middle of the season as well. But again, it's just one of those things. We didn't know how to, bounce back from injury. We couldn't even get an X-ray from where we were. And it's just all those things that, you just don't actually think about when you're over here, just how hard that transformation, actually is.
So what's the goals? You seem, you're obviously very focused and very driven. Have you set yourself, now it's the third season, that, you've learned to live over there, you're ironing out some stuff. What's the goal this year?
Yeah, so like I said, 2024, we learned how to live over there, couldn't really focus on the racing. 2025, we learnt how to live over there. So then we got to focus on the racing, and that really showed in my results how much of a jump we made in Jerez. So 2026 for me, it's our 3rd year. I know how to live over there. I know how to race over there, train over there. Europe to me feels a little bit more like home than what Australia does at the moment. And now that we have some really good support and backing for 2026, I think this is my year, and we've done a lot of off-season training and testing while we've been back home in Australia. And I'm roughly around a second to a second and a half faster at every track in Australia so far that we've been to. And that's, I guess, that time gap that we have been missing in Europe. So yeah, I'm as focused as I ever have been. Ted's as focused as he ever has been in terms of bike setup and training and preparation and everything like that. We're putting all of the steps and processes and procedures in place to make 2026 our biggest one yet. So I guess it's really about bringing everything together and having just the actual self-belief in myself that I can do it. I can fight for a world championship, and there's nothing stopping me from being competitive with those front girls in Europe. At the end of the day, I am racing in their backyard. They've been racing on these tracks for their whole entire lives. Motorsport is very different in Europe than what it is here in Australia. It's like your local football ground. That's what motorsport is over there. So it's a whole different world, racing in Europe and racing in the World Championship. And yeah, we're finally getting there, which is really exciting. And yeah, I think you could probably tell by my enthusiasm and, just a smile on my face how excited I am to get 2026 underway.
At PowerCore, we know your power is essential to you, but extreme weather can damage the network. Here are some tips to stay prepared.
Know how to open garage doors and gates manually.
Charge devices and have battery-powered torches and radios ready. Have a backup plan if you rely on life support.
And rest assured, if the power goes out, we'll be working to get it back on safely and quickly. For more information, visit powercore.com.au. PowerCore, essential as.
The Tyre Factory Warrnambool, more than just tyres. The team at the Tyre Factory Warrnambool not only specialise in helping you with your tyre needs, but other mechanical needs as well. The Tyre Factory Warrnambool have all the leading brands of tyre, including Hankook, Maxxis and BFG, plus a number of wheel packages and wheel alignments. Get in touch with the Tyre Factory Warrnambool for all your mechanical needs, more than just tyres.
And for those of us who love motorsports, we also know how much it costs. So it's a really, really expensive endeavour to do. And but some exciting news for you to take some financial pressure off. You've been signed up by OnlyFans, which is obviously, it's a little bit left field, but probably, some thoughts with OnlyFans when you mentioned, people probably have an idea of what they think it is. Can you take us through how this all happened and what it means for you?
Yeah, so OnlyFans actually first started sponsoring one of my best friends in the championship, Mia Rustin, from Norway. So she was actually the first female to be sponsored by OnlyFans. And for sure, I still remember the conversation when she told me on a track walk. Even she was a little bit hesitant by actually telling me who her major sponsor was for this year. And as soon as she told me, I was like, hey, that's actually, that's a cracking idea. And the more I even looked into it, the more I realized how much OnlyFans sponsor elite athletes. It's actually what the platform was very first designed for back in its inception, was exactly that. It was a fan platform. It was a platform for musicians, sport people, to actually finally start monetizing their content, because if it's not for sponsors, if it's not for monetization, there is actually there's no way to actually bring the income in. So yeah, it was really exciting for Mia when she first announced it. And yeah, I know that she was a little bit scared of announcing it because she was the first female to be sponsored by them. And their OnlyFans sponsor teams like the Moto2 Moto America racing team. They sponsor a whole heap of men in motorsport. But for some reason, in this day and age, even in 2026, it's okay for a male to be sponsored by OnlyFans. Nobody thinks of the left field side of, that industry, I guess you could say. But when you're a female, of course, you put a female and OnlyFans together and everyone's minds only jump to that first thing. But for me, it's a completely different platform. it's really exciting for me. You know, I have over 60,000 followers across my 3 main social media platforms. And with that, as much as I record and post so much about my life, there is so much that I have to hold back on, because there are things that I don't want people to see. I don't want my competitors to see an onboard vision of me racing around Portimao, because, you know, that gives them a little bit of an advantage. You know, I don't want to be posting certain things about my data, and even like you said at the very beginning, the sacrifices, the really hard parts of this sport. I don't want to be opening myself up to complete vulnerability across 60,000 followers. So actually having this OnlyFans platform allows me to really showcase what my life looks like racing in a world championship to my real dedicated followers, I guess you could say. It really does narrow down the amount of people that are following me and looking at my content. And yeah, it's a really exciting platform to be on, and it opens up really exciting conversations as well at the end of the day. You know, I'm used to doing things very differently. At the end of the day, I'm one of the only professional female circuit racers in Australia racing against men my whole entire life. So I'm so used to doing things differently. I'm so used to having really important conversations with people about what it means to be a woman in sport. And now I get to have those same kind of conversations, but on a completely different platform. You know, when people do think that I'm on the OnlyFans platform for this one thing, it makes me actually then be able to say to them like, oh, so, you know, Joe Roberts or Sean Dylan Kelly, which I know these are names that not anyone knows, but they're famous motorcycle riders. You know, why doesn't that idea pop into your head when I say their names, that they're associated with OnlyFans? And it actually, you do see people's brains start to tick over and realize, oh no, okay, I am actually putting females on this one pedestal and thinking that that's all that they can amount to. But at the end of the day, there are so many cool things that women do. And I think it's really cool to see, I guess, just people's perception changing, and the fact that I can be I guess the starting point of that in not just my racing, but in other avenues as well. Yeah, it's a really exciting concept for me.
And the way things are funded now in life, business, sports, everything, it's you have to look. If you just go down the old model, it just doesn't work, does it? You know, so you've got to look into different ways of doing it. And this is just, as you said, another really legitimate platform to do that on.
Exactly. And for me to race in a world championship costs over 300,000 Australian dollars. So, you know, I don't come from a family of millionaires or nothing like that. That funding completely has to come out of my pocket. And the end of the day, if I don't find that funding, I don't get to race. And that was the position that I was in for 2026. I actually wasn't supposed to be racing in 2026. I had 2 of my biggest sponsors pull out for their own reasons, which I completely understand. And we knew that about halfway through the season. So, you know, them being my 2 major sponsors, it really did put us in, I guess, a little bit of a pickle. And yeah, I still applied for the championship again, in the hopes that I would be able to find some major funding for the 2026 season. But I also know how impossible it is. We're living in an incredibly difficult world when it comes to, you know, the cost of living and everything like that. And a lot of people aren't in the position now to sponsor athletes like what they were a few years back. And yeah, so it made me really sad, you know, and at the end of the day, at the last few rounds of the championship, it was making me quite sad, thinking, you know, this is possibly my last ever round in the World Championship. That last race in Jerez was a really sad one for me. At the end of the day, it put a fire in my belly, because I really did think that was my last race in the World Championship. So I put absolutely everything into it. And, you know, I think that definitely helped me finish only a second away from the podium. But yeah, I still remember even Ted said, you know, this might be the last time that you see these lights go out in Jerez. Like, you know, make sure it's a good one and don't come into the pits thinking that you left something in the tank. So that's really the position that we were in. We were in chats with OnlyFans from August of 2025. And yeah, like I said, it was a really exciting platform. I am a journalist by trade. I run my own athlete management agency with social media. I'm a photographer and a videographer by trade. And yeah, my whole entire life is content. My whole entire life is social media. And to now know that I get to add, I guess, a different avenue to my socials, and I get to showcase a different part of my life is really exciting. And like I said, if it weren't for OnlyFans, I wouldn't be lining up on the grid in 2026.
Well, it's a great story of persistence. The fact that you look like your dream may have been coming to an end and you're back ready to fire bigger and better than ever. So good luck with it all. Everyone was really proud. As I said, you know, we have world-class athletes here and you're right up there. So good luck for the season.